Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a warrior who has been alive for 80,000 years. He fought alongside Roman legions. He survived the trenches of the world wars. He watched civilizations rise, peak, and crumble into dust over and over again while he just kept going. That's B. And if Netflix plays this right, B might just become one of the most compelling action characters we've seen on screen in a very long time. BRZRKR is Keanu Reeves' passion project, plain and simple. This isn't some IP he got handed and said, sure, I'll show up. He conceived this world himself, co-wrote it with Matt Kindt, a legitimately celebrated comics writer with a New York Times bestseller on his resume, and brought in Ron Garney to handle the art. Garney is the real deal, the guy behind some of the most visually striking runs on Wolverine and Captain America. So the pedigree here, even on the comic side, was never a question. When the first issue dropped in March 2021 through Boom Studios, it moved over 600,000 copies. That number is staggering by any standard, and it made BRZRKR one of the biggest comic debuts in decades almost overnight. Netflix noticed immediately. They locked down the rights to the entire BRZRKR universe from Boom Studios, and not just for a single movie. They secured first-look rights to everything connected to the franchise. That means live action, animation, spin-offs, all of it. The deal includes both a feature film and an anime series set within the same universe. Keanu is starring in the film and will also voice B in the anime, which is a genuinely smart move to keep the mythology cohesive across both projects. Now, the development timeline here has been a bit of a slow burn, and that's worth acknowledging. Mattson Tomlin came on board in late 2021 to handle the script, and honestly, getting him was a serious get. He co-wrote the Batman sequel with Matt Reeves and created Terminator Zero for Netflix, so the guy clearly understands how to build a world that feels both grounded and mythologically large. But Tomlin was stretched thin across multiple projects for a while, which explains why updates on BRZRKR were scarce for a couple of years. Then in 2024, Justin Lin officially signed on to direct. That was the real signal that things were moving. Lin sat down with Screen Rant while promoting his film The Last Days and confirmed that multiple script drafts are already complete and the project is deep in pre-production. That's not vague Hollywood hopeful talk, that's actual progress. Justin Lin is an interesting choice, and honestly, the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. People associate him with Fast and Furious, which is fair, but what that franchise actually proved is that Lin knows how to shoot action at scale without losing the human stakes underneath it. He can make a chase sequence feel genuinely dangerous, and he can juggle ensemble dynamics without the story collapsing under its own weight. BRZRKR is a different animal tonally, but the core skill set transfers. He's not coming in to make something glossy and corporate. He's been deeply involved alongside Keanu and Tomlin in shaping what this movie actually needs to be. Speaking of which, Keanu's level of involvement here is not casual. He's producing the film with Ross Ritchie and Stephen Christie from Boom Studios and Stephen Hamill from Company Films, with Adam Yolen also on as executive producer. He has reportedly been hands-on with the fight choreography and wants to bring in his own stunt team to keep the action raw and physically honest. There are even conversations happening about Chad Stahelski consulting on the combat design. Stahelski directed all 4 John Wick films, and if that collaboration ends up shaping how B moves and fights on screen, that is an absolutely terrifying prospect in the best possible way. John Wick already set a new standard for close quarters action in Hollywood. BRZRKR could push that even further, because B isn't bound by the same physical limitations as a human assassin. He heals instantly, he can take hits that would kill anyone else and keep moving. The fight choreography for this character could go places John Wick never could. Now let's actually talk about what makes the story worth caring about, because the concept alone doesn't explain the comic's cultural impact. B is half human, half god, and he's been trapped in an immortal cycle of violence since before recorded history. He can't stop. It's not just that he won't, there's something in his nature, in whatever curse runs through him, that compels the destruction, and after 80,000 years of that, he is exhausted. Not tired in the way you feel after a long week, tired in a way that doesn't have a clean word in the English language. He has lost every single person he's ever cared about. He has watched everything meaningful to him get erased by time while he just continues unchanging. In the modern day storyline, he's essentially been folded into classified US government operations, running missions that no human operative could survive. The deal is simple. He does the work, and in exchange, they help him investigate what he actually is and whether there's any possible way to end his curse. That's the emotional spine of the whole thing, and it's what separates BRZRKR from a straightforward power fantasy. The violence isn't the point, it's the symptom. Every brutal sequence is a window into what endless war has done to a person's soul. The closest comparison in recent memory is Logan, which understood that the most powerful thing you can do with an indestructible character is show you exactly what indestructibility costs. BRZRKR operates in that same emotional register, maybe even more intensely. Logan had decades of damage, B has millennia. The structure of the story, jumping between present-day missions and historical flashbacks across different eras, gives the adaptation a natural visual language to work with. Think about what it would look like to see B moving through a Roman battlefield, then cut to a feudal Japanese conflict, then land in the jungles of some forgotten ancient war, all shown not as spectacle but as evidence. Evidence of how long this has gone on, how many times he has died inside even when his body refused to, how many faces he's watched disappear. That's where Ron Garney's art in the comic really delivers, and it's where the film adaptation needs to commit fully. Garney's visual style is high contrast, atmospheric, almost expressionistic in how it handles violence. The film should chase that energy rather than smooth it into something generic. There's a real risk here that's worth naming. Keanu Reeves has become so deeply associated with the John Wick archetype, the stoic, impossibly skilled one-man army, that there's a version of this film that just becomes John Wick with mythology sprinkled on top. That would be a waste. B and John Wick share surface-level DNA, sure, but the internal logic of the characters is fundamentally different. Wick is a man choosing violence as the only tool available to him in a specific situation. B is a figure for whom violence is an inescapable condition of existence. That distinction needs to come through in how the film is made, in the performance, in the pacing, in the quiet moments between the chaos. If the creative team leans too hard on the action and forgets the tragedy underneath it, the film will entertain, but it won't linger. My honest theory is that Keanu understands this better than anyone on the project, because this is his story. He's been living with B as a concept long enough to know what the character actually needs. Keanu has always gravitated toward roles with a specific kind of weight to them. Neo, Constantine, even Johnny Utah if you go back far enough. Characters who are caught between what they are and what they want to be. B is the most extreme version of that archetype he's ever played, and played right. It could be the most emotionally resonant performance of his career. Netflix's deal structure here is also worth paying attention to. First look rights on the entire franchise means they're clearly thinking beyond a single film. If both the movie and the anime connect with audiences, the built-in mythological scope of BRZRKR makes it almost infinitely expandable. Standalone films set in feudal Japan or ancient Rome, following B through specific historical moments, are not a stretch at all. They're basically already written into the comic's DNA. The anime gives them room to develop that mythology in parallel without waiting for the film cycle to do the heavy lifting alone. It's actually a smarter franchise architecture than most studios manage. The critical thing Netflix cannot afford to do is play it safe with the rating. This story only works as a hard R. The violence in BRZRKR is not decorative, it's thematic. Every bit of carnage reflects something about what B has become and what the endless cycle has done to him. Water that down, soften the edges to chase a broader audience, and you gut the emotional argument of the entire project. The comic sold over 600,000 copies because readers connected with something raw and honest in it. That audience will notice immediately if the adaptation loses its nerve. Right now, the first script is complete, multiple drafts have been done, and the film is sitting in pre-production with a director, a writer, and a star all deeply invested in getting it right. The next major update will probably come when they announce a production start date, and based on everything Lin has said publicly, that feels closer than it ever has before. BRZRKR has the ingredients to be genuinely great: a compelling mythology, an actor who created and owns the character, a director who knows how to build scale, and a writer who understands both drama and science fiction. The only remaining question is whether Netflix will trust the material enough to let it be what it needs to be: brutal, emotional, and fully committed to the tragedy at its core. Because a man who has been fighting for 80,000 years and just wants it to stop, that's not just an action movie premise, that's something worth watching.